Hello and welcome to Arizona 360. I'm Lorraine Rivera. Thank you for joining us. We're closing out the month with a deep dive into some recent headlines making waves in southern Arizona. I'm joined by Sarah Garrett-Gasson of the Arizona Daily Star, Dan Shear of the Green Valley News, Sahuarita Sun, and Dylan Smith of the Tucson Sentinel. My thanks to all three of you for being here. Let's begin with the Pima County Board of Supervisors and the decision. Sarah, you're nodding your head like this was a surprise. We had Democrats essentially voting to put asylum seekers in a jail.
I would argue with that characterization.
Okay.
I think technically, yes, it is an institution that is a detention facility. That was what it was built for. That's what some of it is used. But I don't think the architecture and the original use of a facility or a building should dictate how it's used in the future. And I think that talking about putting migrants in a jail brings to mind Texas, the horrible conditions. That is absolutely not what we're talking about here. They're coming to Tucson for a couple days before they move on to usually points east to meet up with their family or sponsors or other people. It's not in any means the same as putting people in a detention center.
Dan, the optics, though, is what's driving the conversation and did this week at the meeting.
I think we should dismiss the conversation because what is primary to these people? Safety. This is a very safe place. As Sarah said, it's a way station, 3 to 5 days on average. There might be some people who are going to be there a little bit longer, but not much. They want to be in a safe spot. These are people who have gone through some very difficult situations up to this point, most of those being the journey to the border. And now they're going to be in a safe space. They can kind of figure things out, start to decompress, and then move on. So I think it's a terrific thing for the county to do. The question, though, is who's going to pay for it? And that was the big issue on Monday.
And Dylan, can the county really massage it enough to make it look nice in the interim?
Well, appearances can be deceiving, and I think that's what a lot of the opposition that we heard, especially from progressive activists, was that this place was an institution that was meant to hold people away from the rest of the community rather than to give them a chance to be a part of a community. And we heard some really heated folks arguing against this move because of that, in addition to questions about how are we actually going to pay for this, especially if this crisis keeps going for the next year or two.
What will be the role of the non-government organizations they have been there in the past, but moving forward?
That's a great question, and that was brought up also at this meeting, and I wish that they had come together before the meeting and presented a plan, because there are a lot of groups out there, and they pointed it out at the meeting very vocally, who have been involved in aiding migrants for years, and they felt like Catholic Community Services was kind of getting all the credit, all the attention, ultimately all the money, and they said, you know what? We think that we can do a better job than the county. Well, we're 2 weeks out. We have to have a plan now, and that the county kind of was backed into a corner in this. It's the first vote I've ever seen where almost everybody was upset when it was done. But I think the county did the right thing, because for safety's sake, for the safety of the migrants and for the safety of the community, you want these people to have a place to go. That's what they provided.
We should point out that this is not going to be run by the county. It's going to be funded primarily by the county. It's going to be operated basically by Catholic Community Services, a private nonprofit group. But they're not going to get any money for this other than what they can fundraise because of the work that they're doing there and have been doing at the monastery.
But there's
the county is going to be paying for the food and laundry and maintenance.
Right.
But that money's not going to go in the form of a check to CCS.
Right, and the county has applied for 3 grants. We'll see if they come through. They're not going to come through before we have to get people there on August 6th, and that was, again, is this really what we want taxpayer money to go toward? There was, again, the rub. Again, though, it's an emergency situation.
Okay, let's move on to sanctuary cities. This week we learned that voters will ultimately have a say in this. Dylan?
May ultimately have a say in this. The Pima County Republicans have sued to try and keep it off the ballot. Their lawsuit is already been refiled because the original filing had a number of errors in it, and we'll see how their legal arguments fare. The city officials and especially the folks behind the initiative are pretty confident that it will actually go to voters in November.
What's the dollar amount that the city may lose? Because depending on who you ask, it changes and it varies, and then the folks behind the movement say, we won't lose anything at all.
I don't know that there is a specific dollar amount that you can put on this specifically, but we do know there will be legal costs. There will be costs of time and attention and energy, sort of those sort of intangible resources. And then also there is the potential to put in jeopardy money that is funneled back to the city through the state general revenues. And so that could be something, not a situation where money is spent, but money isn't received, even though it's our taxpayer money. So there is a real significant potential cost, financial hit that the city will likely take if this passes. And I think that is why all three Democratic primary candidates for mayor have come out against it. And most of although in Ward 1, most of the candidates have said that they do support it.
Dan, how will other municipalities, the state legislature, the feds, be looking at Tucson should this move?
Well, it'll be the first one in the state, so it's of interest there. But I think that a lot of people feel like Tucson is kind of out of step with the rest of the state, so not necessarily how Tucson goes or the rest of the state would go. I think down in our area, what's making people most nervous about this is that Sanctuary Cities asks law enforcement agencies not to collaborate. And law enforcement agencies rise and fall in their communication with each other. And now the safety of the community could be at risk and the safety of the law enforcement officers could be at risk. And I think that doesn't sit well with people.
It's one thing to say that, local police won't enforce immigration law. I think that is something entirely different than collaborating or working together on an emerging situation or some sort of larger investigation. And I think the concern with the Sanctuary Cities initiative is that it really does tie the hands of law enforcement and pretty much everyone in ways that doesn't allow for flexibility that we have now, even though most of what it would call for is already practiced by TPD.
And much of this is being addressed in this lawsuit by the Pima County GOP.